Today I want to demonstrate how to varnish a painting. There's two purposes for varnishing a painting. One is to give it an overall gloss to the whole surface of the painting, and the other is to protect it from dust and pollution. So the process for this is you need to wait 6 months to a year to varnish a painting, water-soluble oil painting. And because it's been sitting around for 6 months to a year, you need to take a soft cloth and get all the dust off the painting. And then the night before, you need to degrease the painting. What that means is, for a water-soluble oil painting, you use thinner and a soft cloth again. Get some thinner on the soft cloth and then dab it onto your painting. You don't want to vigorously brush it onto your painting because that might take some of the paint off. But you just dab it on. This is the night before. And if you're doing a regular oil painting, then you use Winsor & Newton Sand Soda for that. What that does is sometimes the paint will repel the varnish. And so if you look at this painting here, there are areas here where the varnish didn't go on to the painting very well. This will eliminate that. Then the day that you're going to varnish it, there are 3 different types of water-soluble varnishes. There's a gloss, or this is the matte, satin, and gloss. And I've varnished this painting right here, and here's what the gloss looks like, the satin and the matte. The matte looks like there's no varnish on it at all. The satin is a little reflective, and the gloss is very reflective or very glossy. Now for me, the gloss is too glossy. So I will put in like 1/4 of the satin varnish into 3/4 of the gloss varnish. The matte and the satin varnish have wax in them, and that makes it duller. And you can see here that the wax settles out over time. So what I do is take a stir stick and stir up that wax into the varnish again. And then I'll put it into a bowl, and I'll use one of these mesh funnels, and I'll put the matte or satin varnish into the mesh funnel so I get out any big globs of wax into it. So I'm putting 1/4 in here, and then 3/4 in, and then I'll stir that up in my jar. Then you're going to use a varnish brush, and only use this for varnishing. Don't use it for paint. And you can get these varnish brushes at any hardware store, and they say that they're for varnishing. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to pretend varnish this painting. I'm going to get some varnish onto my brush. I'm going to get most of it off. It's actually better to have a thinner coat of varnish than a thicker coat. And I'm going to put about 3 brush stroke widths onto my painting, about 4 to 6 inches, and go in both directions, horizontally and vertically. You're going to discharge most of the varnish on here, and you want to do it fairly slowly. You don't want to whip up the varnish, because that can cause bubbles into your varnish. And I'll do the whole painting this way. And then what I do is I check it just to make sure that the whole surface is glossy. Sometimes I'll miss in the corners, and I'll need to touch those up again. And then when I see that it has an even coat, I will do the whole painting horizontally, and I'll do the whole painting vertically, just to make sure it has a nice even coat. And after that, I'll check just to make sure. Sometimes these bristles come off, or there might be little pieces of dust. I'll check it just to make sure there isn't anything in there. I'll get those out of there. And then there's quite a bit of dust in every room. So what I do is I'll make a tent. In this case, I'm using these ice cream buckets. At home, I usually varnish quite a few paintings at a time. So I'll use these solo cups, and I'll go to the Home Depot or Menards and get this really cheap wood, and I'll put this across the solo cups. Today I'm just going to use these yardsticks. And then I'll make a tent. I'll put plastic over top of this. You can use a garbage bag. And this will keep any dust from settling onto the painting. For the water-soluble oils, it takes about a day for these to dry. So I'll leave this on here for a day. This is the varnish for regular oil paintings, and it has some solvents in it, so you do want to do this where there's good ventilation. There really isn't any odor with the water-soluble oils. And then for acrylic painting, you can varnish those also, and you use the high gloss varnish for that. The difference with this is it's kind of milky white, but it dries clear. So it's a little freaky to use at the beginning, but it will dry clear. And there's, this is also glossy. Now, one other thing that I wanted to show you is on this painting here, I varnished the bottom and I left the top unvarnished. You can see that your paint dulls when it dries, and that varnish makes the colors richer again. If you look at an area like this, this blue-violet is much darker than this. The varnish really brings out those rich colors again and gives it an overall gloss to the whole painted surface. The last thing that I want to cover is with really dark paintings, you want to use a more matte, a duller varnish, because the gloss varnish will be very reflective and will look like a mirror on dark surfaces. And that's it for varnishing.